Hey guys, it's Heather Mack. Just wanted to check in with you and let you know about some of the work that's been going on around the district in regard to the learning continuum. Hopefully you're aware that in the first semester of this school year, we've had some significant work take place around drafting and developing the learning continuum, not only in K-8, but also in 9-12. So I wanted to let you know about the work that's been done thus far, give you an opportunity to see the drafted continuum that are in development, and also let you know ways that you can give us some feedback to the work that's been done thus far. So let's talk about the work that's been done up to this point. When we work on the learning continuum, we do the work in phases. We call it phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 is when we determine measurement topics and learning targets. And we did a lot of that work last year, K-8. So the focus for 9-12 for this year was in phase 1. As you can see, we did 9-12 math and science in September. And then we did some of the Unified Arts folks in November. We were supposed to meet with them again in January, but that got rescheduled due to snow. So we'll meet with the other half of the Unified Arts folks in March. And then you can see that we just wrapped up ELA and social studies in January. So it's been a pretty busy year, first half of the year for us in the 9-12 space. While that work has been going on, we've been doing phase 2 of the work with K-8. And phase 2 of the work is the learning progression work, where we take the critical learning targets, the critical standards, and we start to unpack those standards and begin to determine what mastery looks like for each particular learning standard or learning target. So that work was done with a team of folks district-wide K-8 from math in the fall. We just finished up with ELA last week, and we will start K-8 science and social studies here in March. So it's been a busy year, but we've got a lot of work accomplished on the learning continuum, and we're really excited to share the work that's been done thus far. You're going to have an opportunity to have access to the learning continuum. And as you're reviewing the continuum, you may have some questions or wonderings or questions about the content that's on the continuum, or just questions and wonderings about the process and how the work happened. So I thought it might be helpful for you to see which members from your departments and teams and buildings were represented in that work. As much as possible, we tried to have all 3 high schools present, so Tri, MHS, and Early College. And then you'll notice we also tried to have at least one staff member from Bunseled on each team. We feel it's really important to have that vertical alignment, and having that 8th grade staff member really helped bridge the transition from the content standards at Bunseled to the content standards at high school. So if you have any questions about the work, certainly you can ask Ashley Thompson or I, but these folks also may be able to field some questions and provide some clarity. Let's talk about how the work is done. So we pull teams of teachers across the district together by department and by content, and we sit down and we look at the Ohio Learning Standards. Let's say there's 35 standards for government. The teachers who teach government sit down and they say, are all 35 of these standards critical, or are perhaps only 10 of them critical and the other 15 are perhaps just helpful or supplementary? So when they're thinking through which standards are the most critical, they're asking themselves the question, when students leave my course, when they leave my government class, what are the big ideas or the skills or the concepts or the content that I feel is most valuable? I'm going to take these ideas, these skills, these concepts, and I'm going to provide multiple opportunities for kids to have access to this content so that they can achieve the highest level of mastery possible. The standards that we deem critical are guaranteed and not optional. So regardless if the student is in a government class, at Early College or Tri or MHS, we have clarity and consistency around the standards that we think are most critical for our learners here in Marysville. And so that process takes about 2 days. And the outcome of that is a learning continuum. Whatever standards have greatest priority are what go on the learning continuum. Now, that does not mean that you are not teaching the other standards. We're not eliminating your content. We're just placing a greater priority on those standards that we feel have the rigor and the wider world relevance that kids need to be successful beyond the bricks and mortar of our buildings. So that's how that works. Let me show you what the learning continuum looks like. Okay, you're going to have access to a document that looks like this. So let's go ahead and open this document up. Now, you'll see we've got K-12 math continuum linked over here. And the work is organized into grade bands. So you'll see K1, 2, that work is clumped together. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you'll see Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry. Okay, same thing for science, same thing for social studies, same thing for reading, same thing for writing. Okay. Now, I realize you may not be interested in the critical learning targets for kindergarten. However, it may be helpful for you as a high school teacher to open that document that says 6-8, because if you teach a 9th grade course, you may be wondering, or you may be curious, what standards were taught in 8th grade as prerequisite skills for your course. So you may want to open those up. Let's just open up math real quick. Let's say Algebra 1. Okay. When you open the document, you'll see the course over here on the left-hand side, Algebra 1. And then in these boxes right here that are white, where it says equations, graphing, functions, expressions, okay, we call those measurement topics. Those are the big ideas, or the domains, or the strands that those critical learning targets fall within. Okay, let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see. Okay. So within the course of Algebra 1, in equations, you can see these are the standards right here that were deemed most critical. Now, this language was taken straight from the Ohio Learning Standards. So this language should look and feel familiar to you. But what you might notice is, like, for example, down here in graphing, they only took the A and the I instead of the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. They put a priority on some of the sum standards more than the other standards. So that's how all of the documents are set up, irregardless of what content you're looking at. For example, reading would look exactly the same. Okay? Let's make it a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay? Again, this is reading. Over here on the left-hand side, you've got the measurement topics, so convention applications, vocab, reading informational text with crafted structure, reading literature with crafted structure, communication literacy. Now, this document is color-coded, and let me explain why. Each grade band document is color-coded. The K1-2 documents are kind of a pinkish shade. 3, 4, 5 is a blue shade, 6, 7, 8 is a green shade, and then 9, 12 is an orange shade. The reason that's done is when we put those standards side by side by side by side in one free-flowing document, it's helpful to see the progression of learning from kindergarten to first to second to third to fourth to fifth, but it gets a little overwhelming unless you can color code them and see them in chunks. So the color coding is just there for ease of processing the information. Okay. Same thing though with reading. You've got the standard here, so you can see the 9-10 standard, and then you can see how it builds to the 11-12 and the 11-12 standard. Okay. The other thing I want to point out is we've tried really hard to make sure that the documents are coded with the version. So if you see up here, see how it says version 1, January 2019. As we do the work, sometimes iterations occur to the document, and they need some revision because these documents are fluid and flexible and they're always in draft format. So as much as possible, we try to code the document with the version and the date so that you'll know if you're always working off the most recent version of that document. Some of the work that is still under construction and coming soon, we've got a visual arts continuum finished. Technology is semi-finished. They're still working on it. And then this is what's under construction or coming soon. So Ashley Thompson, Kathy McInnes, and I will be in your buildings here in the next week or so. We'll be at Marysville High School on February 14th and 19th, and then we'll be at the Early College building February 22nd. You can see the times listed there. We wanted to make ourselves available to you so that as you looked through the continuum, you looked through your content, the courses that you teach, if you had questions about the standards that were deemed critical and put on the learning target, on the learning continuum, we wanted to be available to answer your questions. Certainly you don't have to meet with us during these times. This is optional, but we wanted to make ourselves available. Certainly feel free to ask the people in your department and in your buildings who served on the steering committee to do the work. They could absolutely field questions and provide clarity, but we also wanted to make ourselves available to you. So our hope was that by giving you this quick, brief introductory video and access to the continuum, you'd have about a week or so to look through the material, formulate some questions, thoughts, wonderings, and then we'd love to meet with you if you're free. So hopefully we'll see you in a week or two with some questions. And if not, have a great week. Thanks.